Welcome to Fall Rise Give, a space where we invite you to dig into the real cause of your suffering, looking at opportunities for growth with a change in your beliefs, thoughts, and actions so you can be your true self and be inspired. Join us as we explore life's ups and downs and navigate the twists and turns, sharing stories of resilience, hope, and the transformative power of giving back. Whether you're looking for a change, in recovery, or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your go-to for candid conversations, raw emotions, and a whole lot of heart. Tune in and discover how to fall, rise, and give back on life's extraordinary journey. Fall, rise, give, turn struggles into opportunities by being your true self and help others. I'm Bartender Bob, that's Kumar. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Bob. I'm doing really well. Really well. How are you doing?
You know, I'm great. I just my dad just celebrated his 80th birthday on Friday, and we did a pilgrimage up to northern Minnesota to spend some time with them. All four of my kids were there. My grandkids were there, and his two surviving brothers were there as well as one of my two brothers. So we all had like a family get together, and you know, it was a lot of fun. It's the first time in a lot of years that we got together. But the weird thing, Kumar, is that every time that our family used to get together back when I was a teenager and when my brother and I were young, there was always pandemonium when we had these family get-togethers. And I said to my brother, I said, "So did this remind you of when we were kids?" And he said, "No, not at all." I said, "Was it what you expected?" And he said, and he goes, "I don't have expectations anymore because it leads to resentment later." And I said, "Where did you learn that?" And he learned that in the attitude adjustment program.
I love it. Love it. The program's working for him.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm super proud of him. So the thing is that, so from our conversations that we've had over the last 4 months or 5 months that we've been doing the podcast, I've learned quite a bit about the attitude adjustment program, and seeing the other side of it as a bartender. I've been able to utilize some of the things that we've talked about to try to help some of my patrons, but to hear my family who has had some alcohol problems in the past, to have them tell me some of the things that that you and I have talked about and some of our guests have talked about. It was kind of nice to know where they were going and to hear their side and their stories, that leads to their success and what they've done and how they've been able to, stay sober. One of my uncles, 42 years,
Wow.
And I asked him, I said, "So what made you stop drinking?" And he said, "I got pulled over." He lived in Chicago. "I got pulled over for a DUI, and some money fell out of his wallet, and the cop said, okay." And off he went. And he said, "You know what? I'm not doing this anymore." And he didn't get his DUI, obviously, but that was his turning point. That was his spot where I'm not going to drink anymore. And it was kind of cool to hear that,
Yeah. It's kind of funny. A lot of people that enter the attitude adjustment program get a nudge from the judge after they get a DUI. And so it's kind of fun to watch them come in, and some of them make a lifelong change, some don't. What I've heard recently is that about 20% of the people that actually join the attitude adjustment program continue on to a successful career in recovering and don't drink alcohol for the rest of their lives.
Really?
It's not a very high percentage, because I think our society is so driven by alcohol in so many social situations that it's really hard for people to give it up.
You look at the 20% though, and 20% really is, you have to be, as you know, you have to be in the moment or have to be in the mood at that moment to say, "I'm done with this," and had to hit that bottom, had to hit the part where you said, "I don't want to drink anymore." And sometimes, when somebody gets that nudge from the judge, I'm impressed that it's 80%, because I think 80% is quite a feather in the cap for the judicial system, I would think.
You mean 80% failure rate? No.
Well, I'm just saying 20. I don't look at it as a failure rate. I look at it as 20% succession. So I mean, you've got 20% of the people that have that got their DUI or got in trouble for having a fight or something and said, "You know what, this was my rock bottom. This is where I'm going to decide that I'm not going to drink anymore." Because you know that the stars have to be aligned for somebody to decide that they're going to take action and do something. So you think that 20% is actually a pretty decent number.
Yeah, you can look at it that way, I guess. That's a good way to be positive about it. It is certainly, if you look at 2 million people that are part of the attitude adjustment program per year, it's probably a lot more than that now. That's the last statistics that I have. That's 400,000 people getting sober every day or every year. So that's a lot. I think it could be more. I think a lot of people are drinking a lot less these days. The market for non-alcoholic beers or beverages is certainly growing rapidly. I think I was telling you a couple of months ago that Athletic brand of non-alcoholic beer is actually not a beer, but it's the fastest growing beer brand in America. And so certainly it's a growing trend. I hope it continues. I think people know that at some point after the recreational part of it, for a lot of people, it becomes an addiction or it's a disease. So I hope it gets better for a lot of people. And I hope people as a whole consume a lot less, only do it for special events and certain things like that. I just think it's a poison. It's not really that healthy for you. Mm-hmm. But if you do it recreationally, then it's fine. And I'm totally comfortable with people doing it as much as they want.
So you mentioned that brand name is Athletic. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the funny thing is, I was in Duluth, Minnesota this last week, and we went to this deli, and they had different beverages that they were selling. And one of the breweries that they were selling was Athletic. And I'd made a joke. I'm like, oh, they might have Stinky Sock and Sweaty Gym Locker. But then I was looking at the can, and it said that they were NAs. I didn't realize that all of their brand or all of their beers were NA beers.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I think it's out of the East Coast, or somebody said originally it was out of San Diego. But yeah, it's fastest growing. It's amazing that you're finding it in Duluth, Minnesota, a small town. There's like a mini San Francisco. Mm-hmm. God, I love Duluth. I remember running the marathon there a number of years ago, the Duluth Grandma's Saloon Marathon. So that's a fun town. I loved it.
Yeah, it really is cool. So when you were there, you obviously went across the drawbridge, right? The raising bridge. So we were on the bridge and the alarm sounded, and I have never seen Monique run faster. The alarm ran. We were walking across there, and all of a sudden she's like, everybody saved themselves, and she started sprinting across that drawbridge. And I'm like, wait for me. And she was running, giving me the finger behind her back. And I started giving her crap once we got off. I'm like, you were ready to throw me over into the into the Duluth Bay. And she's like, I was not. I wish I could find camera footage of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. No, it's and the Duluth Bay is, it's interconnected to all the oceans through the Hudson Bay and all of that stuff, right? All the way up through Canada, and it's pretty amazing. It's like a huge ocean, the Great Lakes, Lake Superior.
They do. So let's talk. We're talking today. Well, let's talk a little bit about purpose. And I know that we were talking off air a little bit, and we were talking about WWE / connoisseur of. Well, he's an actor. He's a WWE guy. He's a former football player. He's got his own brand of tequila. He's done a lot of different things. Of course, I'm talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah. I was reading a book last night, and the book is called The Greatness Mindset. It's by a guy named Lewis Howes. Lewis talks about a story of a guy, and I had no idea that he was talking about The Rock at the time. He said this guy played college football, but he's hurt his shoulder. He played at the University of Miami, and he was a really good player. He played alongside a lot of guys that are going on the Hall of Fame for NFL. And then he somehow hurt his shoulder or something, and then he didn't have a great senior year. He didn't get drafted. He ended up playing in a Canadian league, making $250 a week. Ugh. And then, it was pretty bad. And then he actually worked really hard and was a really hard worker. And his coaches pulled aside and said, hey, you got to give our playbook back. We're going to cut you tomorrow. And he basically hit rock bottom and couldn't even make it the Canadian Football League. And he gets a flight back to Southern Florida, where he's from. And then he ends up calling his mom and saying, Mom, can you come pick me up at the airport? And as she's driving him back from the airport to their house, he realized he looks in his wallet and he's got $7 left to his pocket. Wow. That's all he had left. And here he is in his mid-20s, probably 25 years old. And he goes on, and then at some point he's got a job or something that he's doing, and he realizes that there's more to life than this. He was cleaning his mom's house. He was going around and running around doing certain things, but he basically at one point said, there's got to be more to my life than this. He ends up joining the WWF, which later became WWE. And at first, he failed as a wrestler. People think he was just a superstar right away. He wasn't. He had a different name, his family name, and he actually was booed a lot for the first couple of years. Didn't do anything famous, didn't do anything, but he just kept on working hard, and he started winning. Then he changed his name to I think it was Rocky Mavion or something like that, and then he changed it to The Rock. And when he became The Rock, he started becoming an entertainer, and the rest is, the story's already told. He became super famous, became a great actor. He owns a tequila brand. He actually owns one of the XFL football leagues or something like that. So he actually owns one of the teams in the XFL, and so he loves his football as well still. And so he's a superstar. But he hit rock bottom. He fell as hard as you can fall, even though he had worked really hard. And so no matter what in life, even if you are doing all the right things, you're going to fall sometimes. And testament to perseverance and persistence and hard work, he found his purpose. And his purpose was to be an entertainer. And he continued to change and evolve from a wrestler to an entertainer, a movie actor, and then a business person with the tequila brand. And he owns a production company. And obviously, The Rock is super famous now and super successful.
And he's friends with Kevin Hart. You got to remember that.
Exactly.
So I Googled it real quick. It says that he's co-owner of the United Football League, member of the board of directors on TKO Group Holdings, the parent company of the UFC and the WWE. So, I mean, he's got his hands into a lot of different things. And, it goes to show that hard work pays off. I think it's funny how you mentioned that people thought that maybe he was an overnight success, but as you and I both know, that it's nothing really happens like. I mean, maybe a few instances out of all the instances in the world, but hard work and perseverance is what pays off in the long run. You gotta put in the time in order to have stuff work out.
Exactly. And we've talked about Michael Jordan in the past, like he got cut from this varsity football basketball team, and he went back to work, and he started, practicing harder than everybody else, and obviously became a superstar. He's the most famous basketball player of all time, but he got cut from his varsity basketball team when he was in high school. So, a lot of people have fallen, a lot of people rise up, and kind of the thing that I think is really interesting to me, and people find some sort of a purpose, some sort of a meaningful mission to understand and to go after something that they want more. Just like what we're trying to do here with our podcast, right? We have a purpose to help people, help people overcome the struggles, have people rise from their failures, and then try to give back to society. That's when you become the true self. True purpose is really when you give your passions and your love for something to other people to help somebody beyond yourself. And so it could be your family, like you said, you spend good time with your family. For me, it's a huge factor in my purpose is to provide for my family. And beyond that, I want to give back to other people. So purpose often is for a lot of people is to provide for their family. And I think it's a really meaningful thing to go above and beyond yourself.
Have you always been a giver? Always wanted to help out? I mean, I know we've talked in the past about, you're the nicest, most pleasant asshole somebody would ever meet. But I mean, have you always been not philanthropist probably isn't the right word for it. But for me personally, I even though I do bad things sometimes, I try to do the right thing. And I try to, put my hand out and help the person that is struggling or that, that needs a little push or something and needs a little bit of help. But have you always been that way?
I think I have to a certain degree, but I'm pretty selfish as well, right? I want to take care of myself, my family. And so I'm not as much a philanthropist. I have a couple of friends who started a charity for a school in Africa. And these guys are givers. They go to their church every day. They raise money for this thing every year. They go and visit Africa and support these kids in a rural town in I forgot the nation that they're in. But the point being is that these guys give a lot more than I do. There's certainly a lot more people that give. But I think I am a compassionate person who wants to help others. but I get stuck in trying to help myself first. And I think at some level, I remember my mom saying that, the best thing I can do for help the world and other people is first help myself, help my family. So I think for me, centric is around my family first,
Mm-hmm.
and then help other people above and beyond as much as I can. So I don't feel like I'm giving as much as I could, but this podcast is certainly one way that we're spending time and energy and money on to help other people find out that, hey, your struggles really are your gifts. And if you turn those gifts into talents and start giving back to other people, that's when you become the person that you want to be, and that's when you become and living in your meaningful purpose. And so, meaningful purpose is really around finding meaning in your struggles, finding the gift in those talents that you struggle through.
You mentioned something that I hadn't heard before, but it rings a bell. You said your struggles are your gift, and if you think about that, that's pretty deep. Because I think we've all had our struggle. I went through a divorce many years ago. My ex-wife and I had a miscarriage. I've lost jobs. I've had struggles, and those struggles basically at the time, even though they sucked, those struggles ended up being the stepping stones to the life that I have today.
Exactly. And I think what struggles do at the very basic level is to, once you go through them, you realize that when you hit rock bottom, that there's actually a way that once you go through that experience and come out on the other end, you have more compassion towards other people that are going through the similar experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Attitude Adjustment Program talks a lot about experience, strengths, and hopes. People share their experience of falling a lot, becoming vulnerable, sharing the struggles that they've gone through, how they still struggle today, the strength that they find from overcoming those struggles, and then the hope that they share with others, the newcomer in the room who's there for the first time, who's only been sober for one day or sometimes hours or weeks and is trying to go through it. They know that other people have done this before. They set an example. So with your struggles, you set an example for other people to give them the gift that, hey, I persevered, you can do it as well. And that to me is the big thing in life is people will only listen to you once they know that you've gone through something similar to that they've gone through. They're not just going to listen to a teacher who hasn't gone through that and doesn't experience on the other side of it. Because the key is, can you resonate with somebody else? Can you actually help them understand and feel what they've gone through? So that's a big thing in life is people only listen to other people that have gone through similar experiences or have come out on the other end.
Is that why they often talk about the rock bottom? Because a lot of times, like talking to my uncles this weekend, rock bottom was here, and talking to other people, this was the worst experience, and this is what made me turn around. Do people actually have to hit that, proverbial or rock bottom in order to start the successful recovery?
I think they do. I think they have to hit their rock bottom. Now, rock bottom for somebody, let's say me, a mainstream drinker, it's not, I got a DUI or I went to jail, I had to get detox, nothing like that, right? My rock bottom was I gained over a lot of weight. I couldn't lose it. I started drinking every day. Wine, started out with wine, and then I was at sporting events. I was missing out on life the way I wanted to have life. So
right.
I hit my own personal bottom. It's not like I have to go get a DUI to join the Attitude Adjustment Program. Everybody's bottom is what they want, right? Some people could actually have a relationship that doesn't work out because they're drinking too much and nothing else is wrong in their life. And so whatever it is for you, your bottom, if you think you're going to quit, if you think you want to quit, you got a problem. You got to quit. You got to recover from that. It's an addiction at some point, and you always know it. If you're a problem drinker, if you're a binge drinker, you don't have to drink every day. You don't have to drink in the mornings. To be an alcoholic, you just have to drink more than you want to drink. That's it. Anytime you think you want to quit, you got to quit. That's the issue.
Do some people think of it like you remember the old George Thorogood song? One bourbon, one scotch, one beer, or I drink alone. I, those are not meaning that you're an alcoholic, right? I mean, if you drink alone, you're just maybe just don't have any friends,
Yeah,
or
yeah, 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 yeah. You're only an alcoholic if you want to quit. And if you think you have a problem, you have a problem.
okay,
You
okay,
know, individually as a person,
right.
nobody else can tell you you have a problem. They can tell you, and they can do a group, whatever it's called. You know, what is it called when the group gets together
You
and
know,
they do?
as soon as you said it, the word popped into my head, and as soon as we started talking about it, I'm like, "Don't ask me what it is. Don't ask me what it is. Don't ask me." And then all of a sudden, I just lost it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
oh, what is that word when everybody gets together and you all talk together?
yeah. They basically call it Judgment Day, right? And you get
Right,
embarrassed, or like, you have a problem, Kumar. You got to stop drinking. You are losing your life the way you want to, right? And so, it. Those things may or may not work for a lot of people, but the issue is that that's a dramatic case. I
right.
think for a lot of people, they know when they should quit or when they shouldn't quit. And getting help is the best thing. And that's the physical sobriety part. The big question is, why do you drink? Most people drink to numb their pain or recreationally to go relax somewhere. But if it's more than recreational, if it's numb pain, then there's some emotional issues. There are some life issues that are deeper and above. They want to numb that pain of that painful experience. And that's why the attitude adjustment program doesn't just stop at physical sobriety. It talks about emotional sobriety. It talks about mental sobriety. It talks about spiritual sobriety. The best thing that I've ever learned about from the program is from a guy who wrote a book called um, A New Pair of Glasses. And he basically said people drink too much because they have lost that connection with their higher power, with their version of their God or spirituality. They've lost that connection and they feel dissatisfied with life. And that is why they drink with an addiction.
You mentioned the word higher power, and in conversation with one of my uncles this weekend, he was talking to Monique about the higher power, and she said, "Well, I mean, have you always been religious?" And he goes, "Oh, he's religious now," but he goes, "The higher power isn't about religion, as you and I have talked about when Gabe was on with us, but he said it could be anything. He said it could be a doorknob, it could be your sponsor, it could be it could be your church, your priest, your rabbi." But he goes, it's something other than yourself to be the quote, the higher power. So it's kind of interesting to see a different person's take on what the higher power is.
Yeah. I think it's something beyond yourself, something that gives you meaning beyond yourself, something that gives you purpose to be a better person. So I think the purpose comes from a higher power. It doesn't come from self will. It comes from a higher level of place. Now, I find it difficult to say a doorknob could be a higher power, but if a doorknob really motivates you, then yeah. If you're becoming master doorknob maker,
Right.
then that's cool. But I think a higher purpose is some sort of an energy, some sort of love, some sort of respect, some sort of a compassion energy thing that helps you live beyond yourself. The big thing is self will versus God's will. And so I hate to bring the word God in, but I think there's a purpose. And when you find a purpose, it's going to be beyond yourself. It's going to be you taking your struggles, turning them into gifts, and sharing that gift with other people. That's the
Right.
bottom line. It's got to be something that you love to do. It's got to be something that you've overcome, something you're good at. And once you start sharing that with other people, you may not make money with it. That doesn't matter. The issue is, are you sharing that gift with other people? And usually your biggest struggles are part of that. And I'd love to share a struggle with you that I have shocked about a couple times, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay. But so I was thinking when you said the doorknob, you have a hard time thinking about that. Maybe the doorknob in my uncle's case was, you open the door and you can get out of or escape the situation that you're in.
That's
I
it.
mean, that's just kind of what I thought about. And so that word that everybody was screaming at us to remember when we couldn't come up with intervention is the word.
That's it. That's
So I
it.
tried Googling that while you were talking, and it wouldn't give me. And I'm like, okay, and I know it's like in something because I saw the word intoxication. I'm like, nope. Oh, intervention. So yeah, that was the word we were looking for earlier.
Yeah, when people do an intervention on you, you definitely have a problem. Let's
Yeah,
get that straight.
you think? Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
Bob, we're here to talk to you about your. You're like, then you just start shaking your head, and you're like, no, no,
no, don't do
I'm
it.
on,
Don't do it. Yeah.
I'm out of here. So what was that? What was that story you were going to share with us?
I was going to share a story about a book that I read years ago, and it really just made a huge difference in my life. The book is called Man's Search for Meaning. It's written by a psychologist in the 50s. Again, it's just the top bestseller on Amazon still to this day. I learned about it from Tony Robbins in his book. He had listed a bunch of books at the back of his book that he recommends that he read. And basically, Viktor Frankl went into Auschwitz and all the death camps, as they called them. His whole family got killed. He was in his 40s when he went in. He was not a strong man. And they used these laborers to make weapons and do all these different things in these camps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was there, and he was the guy, he was a cook, and he was the one serving the food at times. And he would notice that whenever people would take their soup or watered down soup that they would have and a piece of bread, he would see them go back, sit down, and trade their food for a cigarette. And at that point, he would try to convince them not to do that. And basically, they were trading it means that he said they were giving up. So he became kind of like a counselor, like a mentor to a lot of these guys. It's like, you got to make sure you eat, you got to survive, you got to do the best that you can. I know it's not easy out here. And so he talks about the story about giving people hope. And what he did with one of his friends in the camp is he dug a tunnel. He realized that the rooms where they housed these people would change all the time to keep them guessing. But the sewer pipes were always constant. So he dug a hole through the sewer pipes areas right next to it, and he escaped, created a tunnel outside the camp. And him and his friend went through the sewer pipes tunnel that they created and got on the other side one day. They escaped. And his friend said, "Hey, Victor, aren't you excited? Let's go get some help. Let's tell the world what's happening." In the back of his mind, knowing what he was doing, his meaning in life was he was helping the people in the camp, giving them hope,
Mm-hmm.
telling them not to trade their soup for a cigarette, and really mentoring a lot of people. He said to his friend, he's like, "I got to go back. I can't do this. I have to go help those people. I'm their only hope in this world." He goes back. His friend says, "Victor, that's crazy. Let's go get some help." The next day, the very next day, the Russians came and saved the camp. And he runs around looking for and asking the soldiers or anybody, like, "Hey, have you heard of a friend? My friend escaped yesterday. Have you seen anything?" They're like, the soldiers told him finally, "Yeah, we saw a body in the field, shot in the back by the Germans as they were leaving the camp." Dramatic story. It's a great book called Man's Search for Meaning, How to Find Meaning in Your Life. We don't have a lot of dramatic situations in life like that, but you are providing hope. You are giving somebody a gift, some sort of a thing in your life. And finding meaning in your life is through sharing that struggle of yours, turning it into a gift and helping other people. That's what I got out of that book. And Viktor Frankl has so many famous quotes that I think we even posted on Facebook this week. And so, incredible man, incredible story. And that's Man's Search for Meaning.
You know, you mentioned Facebook. We've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got our website. Our website is fallrisegive.com. On Facebook, you can find us under Fall Rise Give. I am not an Instagram person, but isn't our Instagram is under the same thing as well, right? It's
Yeah,
Fall
yeah.
Rise Give.
Fall Rise Give, and same with X, which is the new name for Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, Fall Rise
Just
Give.
and so you can follow us on all of that. But let's take a step backwards and talk about another. Because we talk about the attitude adjustment program a lot, and I've learned a lot about it from having conversations with you. But then I was able to gather some more information about it just with conversations with my family, and I would just like to remind people that if you're having problems and if you need to find somebody to talk with, or as Kumar said, that, that you think that when you start to think about it and you're like, I do have a problem, chances are you have a problem. It's not that far away. You can just go to aa.org and work your way around the website and find out information about what's going on with the program, correct?
Exactly. And we call it the Attitude Adjustment Program because we don't want you to have a preconceived notion of a bunch of drunks sitting around a room having cigarettes, right? And that's not what AA is today. There are Zoom meetings all over the world, all over the time in English-speaking countries. You can get on a meeting anytime. Just all you have to do is search it on aa.org and find a meeting location. Go to it anytime through a Zoom meeting. See what that's like. Check out three different meetings that you like. Be able to see it. But yeah, we're a huge fan of the Attitude Adjustment Program. We call it that because we don't want you to have a preconceived notion of what Alcoholics Anonymous is all about, but that's what it is. And we actually love and support the program because it's done so much for a lot of people. And it's done so much for me personally, for Kumar. But attitude adjustment is what you get out of it, that you don't just get to stop drinking or learn how to drink. You don't get to learn how to drink in that program. You get to learn how to stop drinking, understand what your true passions are, and a true recovery. That's what you get out of the attitude adjustment program.
And like we've talked about in the past too, one day at a time, one step at a time. And, just even, like I said, learning from my family this weekend that, not to have expectations, because that leads to resentment. So just, take things as they come and just deal with it as you can. Correct?
Yeah, exactly. And, I'm almost 11 months without alcohol. And so I'm feeling excited about it. Life is better than I thought it was going to be. It's not perfect. I still have challenges, still have issues, but how I deal with them on a daily basis, that's much better for me. And so life can be what you want it to be. We started the podcast thinking about it. We found a purpose. We want to help other people. Come join us. Come share our podcast with other people. Provide it to other people. Share it in whatever social media platform that you have. Text it to a friend. We hopefully find value. And if you want to come on the show, just contact us through our website, fallrisegive.com, and we'd love to have you on our show, especially if you've got a struggle that you feel like you've turned it into a gift and turned it into a passion and turned it into a purpose. Live an inspired life of your purpose, a meaningful purpose. That's the key, I think, at the end of it. And you don't have to know your purpose today. Just enjoy the things that you're doing and to see what can you share with other people. Can you share a gift with other people? That's your purpose. And don't be afraid. Come on this journey with us. Get inspired. We talk on a weekly basis. Come join the journey with us. Contact us. We will help you any way we can.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall Rise Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also, consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall Rise Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.